Hello once again, I'm Rob Jennings for Action News, and we want to bring you up to date on Hurricane Sandy. We'll be checking in with Cecily Tynan in a moment, but first, Nora Mushanek is live on Brant Beach on Long Beach Island. And Nora, Cecily tells me your wind speed there right now is about 30 miles an hour.
Micah, I'm not hearing anything. Rob, it is raining on and off right now. Extremely windy. We are standing on the Barnegat Bay right now. It is high tide just as we speak. You can see that it is fairly calm compared to the ocean. We were over at the ocean tonight. It's dark, but the waves are ferocious. LBI is under a mandatory evacuation. Route 72 is the only road in and out of this island right now, and eastbound is blocked off with garbage trucks and police vehicles. So we did find tonight that there are some people who have decided not to leave. They're staying. We'll tell you more about them later on Action News. I'm live on Long Beach Island. Nora Mushanek. Rob?
Okay, stay safe. Thank you, Nora. Now let's switch to Cecily Tynan with the latest track on Sandy.
And Rob, we're seeing some bands of some heavy rain in advance of Sandy. The center of the storm, 485 miles south-southeast of Philadelphia. It's right there. It's still moving to the northeast at 15 miles an hour. Maximum sustained wind 75 miles per hour. So it's a Category 1 hurricane. It's still expected to make that very sharp turn to the left tomorrow afternoon, and then it will be slamming ashore in New Jersey probably late tomorrow night, between about 8 o'clock and midnight tomorrow night. You can see the cone of uncertainty, but we've narrowed down the landfall between Ocean City, New Jersey, and Long Beach Island. Of course, we'll have the latest track on Action News at 11. Rob?
And thank you, Cecily. And in the event, and we hope this doesn't happen, of course, but in the event you lose power to your TV, we're still here to keep you informed. We will have live streaming coverage on our iPhone, iPad, and Android apps. And we will now join Revenge in progress, and we'll see you in an hour.
Storm Tracker 6 Live HD shows you that the rain and the wind are already buffeting the Delaware Valley, and we've got a big heavy yellow band that's right through the center of Philadelphia and trying to push off into the western suburbs. In the meantime, earlier rain has now triggered flood warnings across South Jersey, through the state of Delaware, and now including Montgomery, Chester, Philadelphia, and Delaware counties in Pennsylvania. More counties will no doubt be added. That flood warning up and through the rest of the day, at least into this evening. And the latest track from Sandy is now in. This is the first time we've shown it to you for the second straight forecast from the National Hurricane Center. We are looking at landfall probably late tonight or around midnight just to the south of Atlantic City. Matt, unfortunately, that exposes a lot of our beach communities to the full force storm surge and winds, and that'll just get worse as we go through the next 12 or 15 hours.
Thank you, David. This just in. PSE&G is saying that 4,000 of its customers in South Jersey do not have power right now. Karen Rogers has a look at how the weather's affecting the roads. Karen.
That's right, Matt. As you look at this image here of I-95 at Broad Street, you can kind of see how the weather's deteriorated. The rain is coming down harder. We're even seeing that it's windswept at this point. And don't forget the area ramps, some of them leading to I-95 at Broad Street, shut down. Only essential personnel asked to travel in Delaware, as well as parts of Cumberland County, New Jersey. This is one of several downed trees through the area causing a problem. At this point, your area bridges are still open, Matt.
And as for Philadelphia International Airport, all flights are canceled. We'll be back with another update in 25 minutes.
Not really moving through the region all that fast, too, so it's getting a chance to dump a lot of rain in a hurry, and that is producing some flooding problems. Not only this one, but that one and another one that came through early. Even though it doesn't look like the rain's as bad in South Jersey right now, you've been dealing with several hits from this sort of thing, and it's taking a long, long time for this to drain off, especially with the ground so saturated. We do have a flood warning in effect across most of the region, through Philadelphia, through Delaware County, up to Montgomery County, Chester County, and then virtually all of South Jersey, south of Mercer County, and the entire state of Delaware. This is a general flood warning that's up until probably the evening hours, and it could be extended beyond that depending on how the rain goes. And it's not really for any specific waterway. It's just every creek and stream and a lot of roadways that especially are dealing with storm drain problems with leaves in the storm drains. General flooding across numerous roadways here. And of course, emergency management officials have been telling you just not to go out. Matt Pellman's been telling you that all morning. Karen, the same thing. And this is why we have widespread, really unpredictable problems with the flooding. I want to go ahead ahead and take a look at the storm itself, and it is beginning to make that move toward the east. Originally, it came up the coast like this. This morning, when we went on the air before dawn, it came to the north, and now obviously it is making that turn, and it does look like it's headed right in toward the Jersey coast. The latest track takes it a little bit south of Atlantic City, although that could change a bit. It's also strengthened in the last few hours up to 85 miles per hour. That movement, 20 miles per hour, picking up forward motion toward the Jersey coast, and it's still about 265 miles southeast of the Jersey shore, but picking up that ground and shrinking it fairly quickly. The latest track from the National Hurricane Center still has this storm again pushing into an area most likely south of Atlantic City, although it could still be as high as about Lakehurst or down to about Rehoboth or Dewey Beach, Delaware. The most likely track for the last couple of releases of this hurricane track from the National Hurricane Center, though, has been down to the south, and that's bad news because, again, it's areas to the north of that track that would receive the strongest storm surge and the strongest coastal issues. And right now, if this track held true, that would include Atlantic City, probably Ocean City, and then straight up through Brigantine and Long Beach Island. Speaking of which, and if you bear with me a little bit, I just have to call up a menu and try and go and fishing for these, but we have some new images coming in on Facebook. And if I very cleverly go to the right, that's Ocean. Well, okay, here's one that we showed you a little while ago. This is interesting. That's Atlantic City, and what you're looking at is Atlantic Avenue and New Hampshire Avenue. And in that vicinity, that piece of wood that you see looks like wood floating in the street there. That's apparently a piece of boardwalk, and we're told that that's about an 80-foot long image of boardwalk there, or a chunk of boardwalk. And I'm trying to see if I can find that other one, but it doesn't look like, here it is. Yeah, this is the one I'm looking for, guys. I'm sorry, but I do want to show you this. This is a shot of, we're not sure the cross street, but it's in that area where we have all those tall condos. Look at this. This is probably taken around 8 o'clock this morning at times of high tide, and we have water all the way up to probably New Jersey Avenue. Matt Pellman?
Good morning. It's 11 o'clock, and we continue our coverage of Sandy's approach to the Jersey Shore. We're talking about the power of pounding waves. Look at this. This is Atlantic City. Video just coming in from the inlet section. This was not like this yesterday. A big section of the boardwalk, just a bunch of piles of wood. And this storm has a long way to go before it's done. The whole area on the north side of Atlantic City is heavily flooded, we are told. And you may remember there was a mandatory evacuation order for Atlantic City with all 30,000 residents ordered out. The boardwalk has been torn to pieces in Atlantic City.
And take a look at the waves crashing ashore in Ventnor, Atlantic County this morning. Our Amy Buckman has been there all morning long, telling us that while they had new sand dune fences built, they have already washed away into the ocean. Already beach erosion here in Ventnor. This is a major problem, and of course this is going to get a lot worse before it gets any better.
All right, so David Murphy sent us a piece of information here saying the track has changed with Sandy, and also it could be worse for the shore. That's not good news.
No, it's not, Matt. We're going to start you with that new information. This is just in a couple of minutes ago from the National Weather Service, and a couple of things to note about Hurricane Sandy's current position and strength. Right now, the winds have climbed. They're up to 90 miles an hour. That is a strong Category 1 hurricane, not quite a 2. But a few hours back, we were at 75 miles per hour, so it's a lot stronger now. The forward movement is still fairly significant, 18 miles per hour, and we are now just over 200 miles with the center of this storm off the coast of Atlantic City. But of greater concern, really, is the new track that has just been released. Generally speaking, over the last 3 or 4 releases from the National Hurricane Center, we've seen this track go farther and farther south along the Jersey coast. We're still looking at landfall now right along the Jersey and Delaware coastlines, probably by later tonight, maybe from anywhere from 9 o'clock tonight up until about midnight. But here's the graphic I really want to show you. As this Category 1 hurricane comes in, weakens a little bit, but still a very strong extra pressure or extra tropical low pressure system. Look at the latest track. The latest most likely track from the Weather Service has this coming right between Cape May, New Jersey and Rehoboth, and then up the lower Delaware Bay, and now tracking well to the west of Philadelphia. Now, if this works out, it could push most of the heavy rain out that way, although we'd still have flooding problems here in our neck of the woods. The biggest concern here is for the shore, because had we had that old track, which now isn't even in the cone of possibility, we'd only be looking at a strong storm surge up north of Atlantic City. If this track works out, we're going to look at strong storm surges and strong onshore winds going from Cape May up through Avalon, Stone Harbor, Ocean City, Atlantic City, Brigantine, all the way up through Long Beach Island. This would be a worst-case scenario for the shore. And keep in mind, a little while ago, we broke the news that we have a new record high of water height at Cape May in the Delaware Bay. Well, it would go even higher if this scenario worked out. Again, the cone of possibility all the way down through southern Delaware now, through the Delaware Bay, through Cape May, but now to areas south of Atlantic City. This could get adjusted to the north again. We're not saying this is definite, but it's a trend that we've been watching, and it's not good for the shore. By the way, this would also probably mean that stronger winds would have a chance to make it all the way up to Philadelphia, so maybe less rain under this scenario, but still dangerous winds on the way in. As we take a look at the rainfall amounts that we've seen across the region so far, well, some of these are pretty significant. Up around Philadelphia, about 1.5 inches, but how about 3 inches a little while ago, tabulated in Wilmington so far for the storm system. Same thing down by Dover. Out to the west in parts of Maryland, it's even worse with 6 inches of rain, and then 1.5 in parts of South Jersey and 2 in Cape May County. For this reason, we are looking at those potential problems with flooding, and there's flood warnings that I'll talk about in a moment. Again, the center of the storm, which was coming up parallel to the coast, and then this morning when we went on the air was going to the north around 4 a.m., has taken a significant hook back toward land. It's close to within a couple of 100 miles of the Jersey coastline, and it looks like we could see landfall anytime about mid-evening up until later tonight, but it really is starting to push quickly in towards shore. Again, we do have flood warnings in effect, and I want to go ahead and continue to show you these, even though they haven't changed a whole lot in the last several hours. We started out with flood warnings in Delaware and extreme South Jersey. After about 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock this morning, they were extended up to the Delaware River, the entire state of Delaware, virtually all of South Jersey, and a number of counties in southeastern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Delaware, Montgomery, and Chester counties. The wind, or rather the flooding here, is not really for any specific waterway. It's for all creeks and streams and roads. What with the leaves coming into the storm drains, we have pretty much even problems across all of these counties. This could theoretically be extended farther to the west and east a little bit later, depending on how the latest rain bands come in, but that's what we got right now, and this is why, Karen, officials have been telling us for the last couple of days, don't go out driving today. We've got widespread flooding problems, and the wires coming down are going to be a bigger issue as the winds pick up later today.
Right, and as we talked about, that slight change in track making a really big difference, and one of the main reasons is this storm surge. We have the potential for destructive storm surge, 6 to 10 foot wall of water, and this is all going to be in the northeast quadrant of wherever Sandy hits. So now that it looks like perhaps Sandy may hit just south of Cape May or in that area near Delaware, it would be all along our New Jersey beaches in our region that would be getting this storm surge that could be destructive. We're looking at wind gusts. A lot of people have been asking, well, what if I'm in the Lehigh Valley? Am I going to see as much out of this? Still 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts up in the Poconos, up in the Lehigh Valley, out in Reading and Lancaster, Philadelphia, most of our area, including Delaware, Wilmington and Dover, New Jersey, Millville and Atlantic City, but north of where it hits, at least 80 mile an hour wind gusts expected. Overall, that rainfall, Mount Pocono, Allentown, Trenton, New Jersey, 4 to 8 inches of rain. But again, it's south and west of the storm, so we may see some of this shift that will get the heaviest rain. It looks like in Lancaster, Wilmington and Dover, 8 to 10 inches of rain possible. Here's what that storm timeline is. From now till about 2 p.m. on Monday, we're looking at the bands of heavy rain continuing. The wind is going to increase from 2 p.m. Monday to 8 a.m. Tuesday. We're going to see more problems with flooding. You thought it was bad from the images we're seeing. We're expecting things to deteriorate from there. Starting 2 o'clock on through tomorrow morning, we're going to see more problems with wires and trees down. As they say, that flood safety, turn around, don't drown. We can't say that enough. So many people attempt to cross the flooded waters. You don't want to do that. Down wires is an important thing to talk about with the storm safety. When we're talking about widespread, significant, strong storm winds, never approach the down wires. You have to talk to your kids about this as well. It can look like a dead wire, but it could be charged, and it charges the ground as well. The storm concerns, falling trees, bedroom damage. Use another room, perhaps downstairs. On Facebook, we've been showing you a lot of people making these makeshift beds. We did it in our house in the basement to make the kids feel more comfortable about this, and you yourself. But it's a good idea to stay in the lower level of your floor straight through tonight into tomorrow morning, because when those trees fall, they're going to hit the second floor, first. So something to keep an eye on. New information coming in. We're updating this constantly. We'll be back in a few minutes with an update, Matt and Nydia.
Jersey at this hour.
That's right. We have a 2 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center, and the storm system definitely has intensified. The pressure now has dropped. With a hurricane, dropping pressure means the storm is strengthening. The pressure is now down to 940 millibars. What's been going on, the center of the storm has been over the Gulf Stream for about the past 3 hours. The Gulf Stream, the water is very warm, so that really helps to fuel a hurricane. The center currently 110 miles southeast of Atlantic City, and it's picked up its forward momentum, and it is now moving to the northeast at 28 miles per hour, really making a beeline for the Jersey Shore. Maximum sustained winds 90 miles per hour, so this does remain a Category 1 hurricane. But again, this storm system is immense. The pressure is dropping. This is the view of it, the satellite view of the cloud tops on Storm Tracker 6 3D Live. The tropical storm force winds extend 1,000-mile diameter. They were having a wind gust of 80 miles per hour in Massachusetts today. So that's why, even if you're inland, this is going to be a very strong storm. Chicago is going to be feeling wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour at the height of this storm system. So the track really hasn't shifted much at all. We still continue to push it across South Jersey. I want to show you that when it comes ashore, it will begin to weaken, but the fact that there's friction with the land, it's also going to really put the brakes on Sandy. It's moving quickly now, but by tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning, the maximum sustained wind 70 miles per hour. So that shows it's weakening, but it's going to be meandering. Even by Wednesday in the morning, it's still across Pennsylvania. So this means that we do expect not only the winds will be a problem, but we're going to be seeing a lot of heavy rain right through the day tomorrow and even into Wednesday morning. So this is the very latest on where we expect Sandy to make landfall. And again, we've sped up the timing, likely this evening around 6 to 8 o'clock. And you can see how the center of the storm system right across Cape May County. But there is that cone of uncertainty. Actually, if it moved just south of the Delaware Bay, that's really the worst for the storm surge. That would just push that wall of water right up the Delaware Bay. Either case, the fact that it's moving in perpendicular means that we will be getting that very intense storm surge. So not only is it the worst time with the full moon, with the high tide at 8 o'clock, it is really the worst possible angle. So you can see how it will be moving across Cape May or around here and then slowly moving inland once it does move. So this is what we've really focused on, the landfall zone. Looks like between Cape May to Atlantic City tonight, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And again, that's right around high tide. High tide's at 8 o'clock. We've got a full moon tonight. I want to talk about the extent of the flooding. We talk about record flooding. We talk about all that beach erosion. But to put this in perspective, in many locations, the bay and the ocean will meet. And we're looking at a possible storm surge that could be up to 15 feet in some parts. So this is a very serious situation. For more on the timing, on the winds and the rain, let's head over to Adam Joseph. Adam.
Yeah, and that's the other side of the story, because everyone is going to be affected by the storm, not only in our area, but millions and millions of people in the northeastern corridor of the United States. And that storm surge, when it comes inland with the eye of the storm, the center of the storm, is going to be in conjunction with the high tide, which is at 8 o'clock tonight, and there is a full moon, so it's astronomically higher than it should be. We're looking at that 6 to 10 foot wall of water to come in with the eye of the storm. And again, that's roughly 4 to 6 hours. So things are going to deteriorate rather rapidly here this afternoon over the next few hours. 6 to 10 feet of water. What is that? I've been mentioning it a couple of times, and if you're just joining us, if you were to be standing at the edge of a normal high tide, expect 6 or 10 feet of water to be over your head at that particular normal high tide. That's how much water still has to push inland. In fact, that storm surge tonight and this evening, we're looking anywhere from about the middle part of Cape May County, let's just say around Strathmere, all points to the north, anywhere between 6 and 10 feet. Some areas could see a storm surge 12 feet. 15 feet, and it's those areas that Cecily just mentioned that the bay and the ocean could merge and pretty much submerge a lot of the barrier islands. South of there, where the eye falls right over, and below it's about 4 to 8 feet, still devastating and historic in many locations, and in the bay 2 to 4 feet. Peak wind gusts so far in our area from this storm today: Dover 48 miles an hour, Cape May 47, as well as northeastern Philadelphia. So again, the shore locations, not much variation to inland, so those strong wind gusts will make it as far as the I-95 corridor and into the Lehigh Valley. Atlantic City Airport so far 44 miles an hour. The expected wind gusts for pretty much the entire viewing area from the Poconos through the Lehigh Valley, 60 to 80 miles an hour, and we'll start to see some of those wind gusts coming in possibly in the next 2 to 3 hours, and especially 4 to 5 hours right along the immediate shore, where we get that wind off the water. You don't have the friction of the land that will start to slow the speed as you move to the west. Right when it comes off of the water, we're looking possibly at 80 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts, and some city concerns. If you want to venture out, please do not, especially in the cities, any of the major downtown cities with those tall buildings. The winds have to funnel through the high rise. Those are tight spaces. So you get this burst of wind, and then it goes into a smaller space, and it gets even faster. And there could be debris that's rushing through all of those inlets in the downtown. So we could see gusts as high as 80, maybe as high as 100 miles an hour closer to the city, which could actually blow out some of the windows in Center City at the highest locations, especially if there's any projectile. It could burst some of those windows. Not saying it will, but that's just something we want to bring your attention to. Storm Tracker 6 Live right now will show a lot of pretty much the whole area almost in yellow now, as we're getting more of those bands of extreme heavy rain anywhere from Trenton to Philadelphia and moving in. And if you look here, you know, we're starting to see some of the edge there of what could be part of that eye, the center of the storm, with again some of those bands of yellow that are moving along the coastline here. There, right here, you see this little arc of the yellow here. Again, this is where the center will be, so it won't be much longer time, 4 hours at the minimum, of when that eye will be making landfall between Atlantic City and Cape May. So how much rain are we expecting? 8 to 10 inches south and west of Wilmington, Philadelphia, Chester County, 4 to 8 inches all along the shore communities up through Allentown, Trenton, and the Poconos. In fact, we already have flood warnings pretty much for every county, all of you in our viewing area, with the exception of the Lehigh Valley right now, not seeing any flooding at the present time. So pretty much everyone underwater in certain locations of the counties. So not only do you want to venture out because of the winds, we also don't want you to venture out because you don't want to drive through flooded roadways. You don't know how deep that water is. You don't know if there's a bridge that has been taken out underneath the water. And also, Rick and Monica, one thing that I heard earlier, a lot of places, especially at the shore, they're not putting up those signs that say road closed, you know, deep water, because the winds could pick them up and they could become projectiles. So a lot of roadways, they're water covered, but there's no sign to say don't drive through. Make sure you turn around. Actually, don't even venture out, but if you really had to, I would avoid any road that is covered by water.
Well, a lot of folks think that, you know, we survived Irene. Sandy is like Irene's crazy aunt, comparatively.
That or Irene on steroids. I mean, there's so many things that you can say about the storm. You want to bring it to that max level because, as Cecily alluded to, also the pressure of the storm is something very historic, and a storm that we've never seen in our lifetime and possibly would never see in the future.
We have to hope. All right. Thank you so much, Adam. We're going to take a quick break. Much more of our extended coverage tracking Sandy right after this. Back to our live continuing coverage as we track Hurricane Sandy and a vicious storm that is now barreling down on most of our viewing area. We do have some pictures that we want to talk about for you, and we're going to go live to Sarah Bloomquist along Delaware Avenue, where she is reporting live from Philadelphia. Sarah.
Well, Monica, it's tough to believe we're on the banks of the Delaware River and not on the banks of the ocean, on the shoreline. This is some pretty impressive rainfall and wind gusts we're seeing here in the city of Philadelphia. We're right along the Ray Street Pier, and of course, the pier is closed at this point. The authorities have been watching the river levels, as Mayor Michael Nutter's been reminding people. This is a city of two rivers, and the Delaware River looking pretty angry at the moment. I talked with the DRPA officer. He's been coming by every so often and taking pictures. He said when his shift started, this is the Ride the Ducks boat ramp. He could see all the way down to the end of the ramp, but the river water is rising. High tide here was at 11:45 this morning, but the river water level does continue to rise. As we look along here, I think you can kind of tell how the water is just coming right toward us, the wind and the rain. And if we look up toward the bridge, I think you can see the wind and the effect on the rain up there as you look at it as it's coming off the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. Of course, there are traffic restrictions on the bridges around the region right now, affecting mostly truck traffic and motorcycles, those things at the moment. And coming out here onto Delaware Avenue, this is an area, I do have to say, that always floods. It's just kind of a matter at this point of when it will flood. Philadelphia police have been coming by periodically to monitor the roadway. You can see there are already some crews out. They did some sandbagging there. That's at the base of the bridge. There must be some storage under there or something because they put those sandbags. We also went over to the Schuylkill River a little bit earlier, and that had a good ways to go before it crested the banks, even in some of the areas prone to flooding there in like the East Falls area. But again, they are monitoring those areas. We were driving as well. There are very few cars out on local roadways. You can see Delaware Avenue, just the occasional car passing by, and there is some ponding at this point. But really the other issue out on the roadways is the wind, especially with a higher profile vehicle. Those wind gusts, it can be tough to maintain your lane when the wind gusts are like this. But again, we'll be out here watching the Delaware River as the authorities are doing, as well as the Schuylkill. There are great concerns about flooding up and down the rivers on both sides of this city as we deal with really the wind and the rain. Again, I imagine these conditions when we're at the shore, not in the city of Philadelphia, but conditions really deteriorating here at the moment. Live on Delaware Avenue, I'm Sarah Bloomquist, Channel 6 Action News.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Let's go now to the Jersey Shore once again and check on the situation there, where conditions also deteriorating. And reporter Jennifer Joyce is standing by, and Kate May. Jennifer.
Well, you can see we are undercover here. We are currently outside of our balcony hotel room at Congress Hall. This has become a staging area for the media to tell the story of Sandy. Looking behind me, though, you can actually get incredible pictures of the ocean. You can see just how rough these waves are getting. Every time I look in that direction, it looks as though the ocean is inching closer and closer and closer to the beachfront streets. Also taking a look here on the property in front of Congress Hall, looking down, you can see that the front lawn is flooding here. This can give you a good idea of what many of the streets throughout Cape May look like. We were driving around earlier today and we saw streets that are already streams. Again, it's a big concern given the fact that come 8:30 tonight, we are going to have that high tide, and there is that concern of another tidal surge. Now, even though we're undercover, we're kind of shielded from the wind, but you can see, looking back out by the ocean, you can see a lot of the trees swaying side to side, being knocked around, especially coming off of the ocean. Right here from Cape May, New Jersey, I'm Jennifer Joyce, Action News.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate that. All right, we want to show you some pictures from all over the area. This is Beach Haven resident, 84-year-old Buddy Gottschall. He says he's ridden out past storms from 1944, 1962, and 1992, but he told us he felt this storm was worse, and he knew in his heart he had to get out. He called emergency workers.
And he came up in a bulldozer, pulled the bulldozer up to my front door, and I jumped in the bucket. And when I jumped in the bucket, he rode me up to the street, the ocean side where the water goes down and it's low. And then he put me down, I got in the cab, and I came up here.
Emergency vehicle at work, and Gottschall fortunately was not hurt.
Good for him. All right. Well, the water continues to rise. Meantime, in towns up and down the Jersey Shore, this is what the streets looked like in Atlantic City just a short time ago. This video just coming in. The city's 30,000 residents were under orders to evacuate. Some decided to stay, as we heard from the governor a short while ago, and now some may be sorry they did. An emergency team had to brave very high water here on Harrisburg Avenue to rescue an elderly couple stranded in their home by floodwaters. Fortunately, their SUV was high enough and heavy enough to get through, but a few more inches, and that couple might have had to ride it out regardless.
And we are just getting a good look right now at some of the effects of Sandy along the Jersey Shore. Check this out, the action cam in Atlantic City at Pacific and Vermont Avenues. You can see some of the beach erosion already. It's been caused by both the high winds and that surf pounding the shoreline relentlessly, and much more to come, unfortunately.
All right, meantime, northern New Jersey also getting slammed by Sandy. This is near the boardwalk in Asbury Park. The storm is already causing power outages, and police have closed off roads as we take a look at this live picture. And just like South Jersey, the surf off Asbury Park is also continuing to gain strength.
We do have a special programming alert for our 6 ABC viewers. During this extended coverage of the storm, you can find the network's regularly scheduled programming. It is on 6 ABC's digital channel 6.2, also Comcast Xfinity 790, Verizon Fios 466, RCN in Philadelphia 618, and Lehigh Valley at 1098. And that will continue for the duration of this extended coverage of Hurricane Sandy.
All right, I need that again, Monica.
I'll give you the link.
All right, let's switch slides. Alicia Vitarelli standing by the Action News Big Board, where again social media continues to play an important role as we deal with Sandy.
Yes, and our citizen journalists sharing their pictures today. 7 Mile Times out of Avalon, New Jersey, sharing this picture. Every time I come to you with these pictures, the water level just continues to rise. These images out of Avalon are so dramatic this afternoon as you see these homes at least a few feet covered in water, and we are not even at the thick of it. Our meteorologists have been updating us. Take a look at some of these pictures out of Atlantic City. This picture tells 1,000 stories. If you just take a look at the water level, this car almost completely covered in water. Another picture out of Atlantic City today too, as you see a lot of the businesses certainly going to be assessing some damage when this is all said and done. This is in Margate, New Jersey. Jersey Shore really taking the brunt of it today. That's a look at the Wawa there. Again, some of the pictures that are coming in, all of this happening along the Jersey Shore and southern points today. We have a lot of pictures from Ventnor and Margate. This one here, as you can just see, a lot of the storm just really continuing to build. And, you know, a lot of the people that have been sharing these pictures with us, we just can't thank you enough. And please do it safely. Finally, I'll leave you with this because I think a lot of people will be doing a lot of cleanup. This is coming from Wilmington, and Tabitha sending this picture here. So if you do so, do it safely, and we'll be sharing them throughout the night. Rick and Monica.
All right, thank you again so much,
Thanks,
Alicia,
Alicia.
and to all the viewers. We're going to take a break. Much more Action News extended coverage of Hurricane Sandy up next.
Okay.
I approve this message.
2:31 the time now, Monday afternoon. Our coverage continues here on 6 ABC, and we want to get an update now on Sandy's arrival. Talked about landfall sometime between 6 and 8. Is that still the case, guys?
Yeah, that's definitely still the case. And with Sandy, it's getting stronger, and it has increased with forward momentum. The pressure is down to 940 millibars. And when you think about pressure, a low pressure means that the storm actually exerts less pressure on the water underneath it. So as the pressure lowers, the water underneath it will rise, and this really can contribute to a storm surge. 110 miles southeast of Atlantic City, maximum sustained winds 90 miles per hour. The movement now toward the northwest, 28 miles per hour. One of my viewers on Twitter asked, well, this is better, right? Well, it means that the duration of the wind gusts inland will likely be shorter. However, you've got more forward momentum with the storm system. Think of if you put your hand in water, kind of perpendicular. You move it slowly, it doesn't move a lot of water. But when you move it really fast, it pushes the water a lot quicker. It creates bigger waves. So the forward momentum is bad news in terms of storm surge. Now, Storm Tracker 6 3D Live showing, first of all, you can see we've got a lot of yellow. We have some really heavy rain moving in from the ocean. The rain has been intensifying through the afternoon, and we also have the buoys. This shows the live data, exactly what's going on right now. This is near Rehoboth. We have winds right now sustained out of the northwest, 47 miles per hour, gusting to 60, and this is a huge storm system. I want to go over to a buoy that's just off of New York Harbor, and this is where winds sustained out of the northeast, 56 miles per hour, gusting to 69 miles per hour, and Massachusetts, about an hour ago, reported a wind gust of 81 miles per hour. So this is why the entire eastern seaboard, essentially from Chincoteague, Virginia to Massachusetts, is going to be getting damaging winds. This shows the wave heights, and these really have been increasing as we're heading through the afternoon as the center is getting closer. And you can see right close to shore, we're looking at wave heights 17 to 19 feet, a little bit closer to the storm, wave heights more than 20 feet. So they're really intensifying that wave height. 30 feet. So we've got the higher waves, we've got the storm surge, and unfortunately we've got a track that really hasn't shifted at all. It still continues to move toward the northwest. By 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, it will have weakened to 70 miles per hour, and then it will be lingering. However, that storm, again, moving very quickly towards land between about 6 and 8 o'clock tonight is what we're expecting. And you can see how that cone of uncertainty is very narrow between close to Atlantic City and the mouth of the Delaware Bay, and the actual National Hurricane Center forecast brings it right over Cape May County. So this is really bad news for most of our Jersey coastlines, where we do expect that wall of water. Wind gusts currently, Philadelphia 38 miles per hour. In Allentown, we haven't talked much about the Lehigh Valley, but you're getting socked as well. Wind gusts 44 miles per hour. Wildwood currently 36. Atlantic City Airport down to 39. It was 50 a few moments ago. Future tracker wind gusts showing at 7 o'clock. A large part of our viewing area, we're going to be seeing wind gusts more than 60 miles per hour. You look right here, Atlantic City, wind gusts only 27 miles per hour. That's the eye. This is this model picking up the eye, moving ashore near Atlantic City tonight around 7 o'clock. That eye will continue to push towards the west, northwest. By midnight, still wind gusts more than 50 miles per hour. And through the day tomorrow, we will have gusty winds. But as we head into tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, getting a little bit lighter, and finally by the evening, wind gusts will be dropping down to less than 30 miles per hour. So it's moving a little bit faster, but once it hits land, it will be really slamming on the brakes. So this is still really going to be a long duration event. For more on what to expect in terms of rain and flooding, let's head over to Adam Joseph. Adam.
You know, and Cecily, I want to elaborate a little more on what you were saying about the long duration of this storm. Even if you don't see those wind gusts of 60 to 80 miles an hour, we're talking 12, 18, 24 hours of wind gusts over 30 miles an hour, and it's going to create a lot of damage, even if there are structures that are not weak, trees that are not weak, because you can put it as if someone was just to scratch you, or you do this on you very lightly. At first it feels pretty good, but imagine doing that for 24 hours. It would get very irritating, and that's what's going to happen with some of our trees and structures. Everything's going to be so irritated because it's going to last so long that there will be a lot of damage because of the winds, no matter how strong they are. Storm Tracker 6 live as we look street level throughout southeastern Pennsylvania. We're getting into those brighter yellows. Let's first make a stop into Pennsylvania, and we'll see what we're looking at for the rain right now. And we're seeing some heavy bands of rain through Chester County, Delaware County, northwestern Philadelphia County, in the southern part of Montgomery County near Lansdale, Norristown. Some brighter, even some pops of red here or there trying to form. And in these pockets of heavy rain, we're also getting bursts of wind. You're going to get a constant wind, but then that wind will really whip up, and then it will calm back down. As we head to the south through the state of Delaware, also seeing some very torrential rain at the present time, anywhere from Wilmington right through Middletown, Smyrna, and Dover. You do see a little more green here than in Pennsylvania, but still some torrential rain. This is tropical-like rain, so it's releasing a lot at a short amount of time. And as we head over into New Jersey, you can see pretty much the entire state of New Jersey in that yellow, and there's a band that is just about to head into the coastline here. You see that little break, then you get a band. That's really what happens. These spirals of bands of heavy rain and wind wrap around that center of the storm. So we're about to get another one to push onto the coastline. Now I'm going to have our weather producer Paul switch things over and look at how much rain has already fallen with this storm so far. And you can see the brunt of it has been through the state of Delaware and into Maryland. We're already 5 inches, 4 inches of rain between Wilmington and Dover. The same thing between Cape May and Atlantic City, but up to the north of Philadelphia into the Lehigh Valley, much less, about 1 inch to 1/2 inch so far. But these numbers are going to continue to rise, and this is the area to the south. We will see tremendous inland flooding on the creeks and the streams. This is how much more rain will fall on top of what we just showed you on Storm Tracker 6. 4 to 5 inches more through the state of Delaware, about 4 inches in Philadelphia, near 3 inches in Allentown, near 5 to 6 more inches in the southern part of Cape May County, and that's just fresh water. That's not the ocean or the bay water flooding as well. Storm surge, this is the other key ingredient to this and really one of the most dangerous parts of this hurricane, as it will make landfall somewhere in Cape May County again between 6 and 8 o'clock tonight. That's when you'll feel the brunt of the storm north, let's just say, of Stone Harbor all the way through Long Beach Island. We're looking at 6 to 10 foot storm surge. That's 6 to 10 feet wall of water higher than a normal high tide, and we have the full moon. So that could bring the bay and the ocean together on some of the barrier islands, completely covering it with water. Southern parts, the tip of Cape May County, 4 to 8 foot, and then 2 to 4 feet in the Delaware Bay. If the storm was to go a little farther south, you would funnel a lot more water into the bay, and as that water goes up the Delaware River, it gets smaller, narrower. There would be a tremendous storm surge going up the Delaware River into Philadelphia. That does not look the case right now, but we have to see where this exactly makes landfall. So, flood warnings. They continue up through 8 p.m. tonight. That's when the ocean high tide is. It continues into tomorrow morning. Major tidal flooding. We're looking at the shoreline, right where it breaks at the sand. Waves between 15 and 22 feet, closer to 15 right at the shore, 24 just offshore. Those waves are huge, and it's going to do a lot of erosion and eating at some of those barriers and also some of those sand dunes. But again, one more time, winds 90 miles an hour, moving to the northwest at 28, and a very low pressure, 940 millibars. Rick and Monaco, it's 110 miles south and east of Atlantic City, the center of the storm. We're looking at landfall now, probably in less than 3.5 to 4 hours.
Okay. We'll be right here with you. Thank you so much, Adam. All right, we want to take it live to Pico Energy, and one of the officials there, Karen Muldoon-Geist, is joining us live from headquarters by telephone. And Karen, while we're chatting with you about some of the updated outages and the numbers people affected already, we're going to be looking at a live picture at a different location of Pico Energy. That's in Plymouth Meeting, your other command center. Good afternoon, and tell us what the latest numbers are.
Okay, so right now we have 14,000 customers without power. That number has jumped significantly since earlier today. Right now, we have activated our emergency response organization actually last Thursday so that we could plan effectively a few days out from the hurricane. Right now, we've mobilized more than 3,000 field personnel, employees and contractors, back office employees. Everyone is on standby, ready to respond to the what we think will be devastating effects of the storm. We, as I said, are seeing the number of outages across the region climbing. We anticipate that this number and the duration of the outages will increase as the storm intensifies.
So when you're saying 14,000, Karen, tell us about where the bulk of those are. Is that more than just Philadelphia County? How many places are you covering with Pico Energy's number here?
We cover Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, Delaware, and Philadelphia County.
Okay.
Right now, we're seeing probably I would say the majority of the outages in Bucks County, and then between the 4 other counties, it's pretty evenly dispersed.
Okay.
Okay, and Karen, what is the game plan as far as a resumption of power? I think you know, we've been hearing that it could be days before things certainly would be back to normal. Is there just a kind of a wait and see what happens, let the storm ride out before you even anticipate going back online for some of these residents who are experiencing disruptions?
Well, I mean, it's very tough to anticipate what will happen given the fact that you know, we're still waiting to see, you know, really the worst part of the storm. One thing I'd like to say is that customers without power should contact the company at 1-800-841-4141. The more customers who call to report an outage, the more effectively we can dispatch crews and restore service.
We have that number on our screen, by the way, for other folks to see it and write that down. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Karen.
And you know, we ask for our customers' patience. It may take a day, dependent upon the track of the storm, before our crews can safely get out into the field and assess the damage of the storm.
And you have brought in extra workers from at least 5 or 6 other states that we've been hearing: Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisiana, Illinois, Mississippi, drawing from all parts of the country to try to help us get these folks back online. But we're being told by governors and mayors all over the tri-state area not to expect that within 24, 48 hours. It could take that long just to see where all the damage is. Is that right?
Well, in terms of the crews, we had most of our crews come in on Sunday, and then we'll have additional crews come in. We have additional crews that have come in today and some tomorrow. So, like I said, we planned this a few days out from the storm so we could get the full contingent of crews that would be able to work out in the field and restore power as quickly as possible.
Okay, and I think it's important to reiterate, Karen, that if someone or a family does experience a power disruption, they should call PECO and not assume that a neighbor or someone down the street or in their neighborhood is already called, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Karen Muldoon, guys, with PECO, thank you very much for that updated. Let's go live to Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, who's holding his own news conference at this hour, just to bring us up to date on the status of the city.
Thank you all for coming on relatively short notice. We have a series of announcements, important announcements to make about the state of affairs right now, and we're going to talk about things with regard to tomorrow. We're joined, of course, by an incredible array of public servants. I want to first and foremost thank Dr. William Haidt for allowing us to be here at 440 North Broad Street, headquarters of the school district. I want to thank Council President Clark for his continued engagement and presence and forceful voice on these issues. Deputy Mayor for Administration and Coordination, Rich Negrin, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Chief of Staff, Everett Gillison, Police Commissioner Ramsey, Fire Commissioner Ayers, Deputy Mayor for Transportation and Utilities, Rhina Cutler, and the Chief Education Officer for the city, Lori Schur, and recognize again the great work of Samantha Phillips, Director of the Office of Emergency Management. Based on the most recent information and tracking, it appears that we are somewhere between 8 to 10 hours before the very dangerous Hurricane Sandy is over the Philadelphia region. And we know that we are facing one of the most severe weather events in the city's history. Let me give you an update on what we know with regard to Hurricane Sandy. Our latest information is that the storm will hit Atlantic City, New Jersey sooner than expected. It's estimated somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock p.m. tonight. There are varying projections on wind speeds and gusts, but for us, the bottom line is that we face the potential of punishing levels of damage, whether it's to homes, to trees, power lines, buildings, and the like. In fact, so far, 230 Philadelphian residents are without power, but of course our great partner, PECO, I know, will jump on that and get those folks restored as quickly as is safely possible for them. The heaviest rain is expected to begin this afternoon and will continue overnight. We're expecting between 5 to 8 inches more of rain. Let me also acknowledge the hard work that's been done by all of our public safety, first responder, and emergency management personnel. We are very proud of them and appreciate their service. They are presently and are willing to put themselves in harm's way on behalf of the great citizens of this city. And for that, we are grateful. As we stand here in this particular place, I want you to know that there is a tremendous amount of planning and preparation that takes place when we're facing an event like this. The Office of Emergency Management and all the other coordinating agencies have been working on the planning and preparation for Hurricane Sandy for almost a week now. We are ready, But frankly, given the unpredictable nature of this storm and the conflicting weather reports, we are left with the conclusion that we must, in fact, always hope for the best, but quite frankly and certainly prepare for the worst. And that's why we've been insistent about residents doing their best to stay home, stay off the streets, stay out of vehicles, and stay safe. Many of the estimated 10,000 people citywide who live in flood-prone areas have in fact heeded our repeated public calls for evacuation or relocation. The 3 city shelters are beginning to fill, and we're seeing more activity over the last few hours. So far now, nearly 300 Philadelphians have taken advantage of our shelter facilities. We have plenty of capacity, though, and so please, again, an appeal to the public. If you believe or feel or have previous experience that you might be in danger, I want you to move to safety as quickly as possible. And whether that is a friend, a neighbor, a relative, someone else in another part of the city, we want you to do that or to come to one of our 3 shelters. We have a long way to go before we are past the full brunt of this storm. We cannot overemphasize that. And I want to make it very clear that public safety is collectively our top concern. It is what we are most focused on. The safety of the public, the safety of our children, the safety of our seniors, the safety of those who are most vulnerable in our population. And that is, in fact, the number one concern of all of us assembled here and many others. In a few moments, you'll hear from Superintendent Height. He will make an announcement with regard to schools. But first, let me say that for tomorrow, the city of Philadelphia will be closed, except for public safety, emergency personnel, or essential employees, all of whom have been previously identified. In addition, the 1st Judicial District, the District Attorney, the Sheriff's Office, all of those offices will be closed as well. And for all intents and purposes, and you'll hear from SEPTA, you'll hear in a few minutes their perspective on all of this as well. On decisions like these, as I've said before, they involve public safety first and foremost. And any responsible public official must always err on the side of caution. As I mentioned, there will be conflicting reports about the intensity of this storm, how much wind, how much rain, et cetera, et cetera. When we see these kinds of conflicts, again, we always take the position that it is better for us to make the judgment call with the information that we have at that time. And the best call is always going to be the call to be overly cautious rather than irresponsibly taking risks. Lastly, in terms of the public, again, we encourage you, if you have a non-emergency problem, we talk about clogged inlets or trees that are down or limbs or some other challenge, please call 311. Download the 311 application. Go to Facebook and the 311 page for the city or our Twitter account. You can email us again at philly311@phila.gov. And don't forget to sign up for text or emergency alerts at www.readynotifypa.org. Continue to check Channel 64, the government access channel. We will continually update that channel with pertinent information. And of course, all of you in the news media, we encourage folks to listen to radio, watch TV, go on your websites, get your information however you get it. You can get emergency phone numbers from 311, but again, they are the PECO Energy Customer Service Line, 1-800-494-4000. PECO's emergency hotline, 1-800-841-4141. Philadelphia Water Department, 215-685-6300. Philadelphia Gas Works, 215-235-1212. Our entire city government and all of our stakeholder partners are focused on public safety. Our emergency personnel are out there doing the job, even in the midst of this storm. We need the public, please, to do your part. Stay at home. If you don't need to be outside, if you don't need to be in your car, please be safe. If you need to relocate, please relocate. We care about you, and we want you to be safe. With that, let me have Dr. Height come up to talk about schools.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your leadership. Thank you to all of the agency heads behind me who have coordinated with the school district during this process as well. The School District of Philadelphia will be closed tomorrow, Tuesday. The safety of our students, not only at school, but getting to and from school is extremely important. And taking everything into consideration, primarily their safety, it is the decision to close tomorrow. I appreciate the level of coordination that we've received from the city, the Office of Emergency Management, and all of the other individuals who are helping us. Once again, the School District of Philadelphia will close tomorrow. We will have staff analyzing and evaluating all buildings to ensure that they are sufficiently ready to receive students once we make the decision to return.
Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, again, I want to commend you and your team for being aggressive, proactive in your approach to ensuring that the city of Philadelphia is prepared for what, in every account, is going to be a significant event. So I want to commend you. And the one thing I'd like to say that as we travel throughout the city today, it is clear that people are hearing us. The streets are relatively deserted, but I'm concerned that the natural inclination of citizens, when they don't see what's being predicted, they decide to go out. And they say, well, I'm just going to take a dash down to Delaware Avenue or a dash to Jersey. Please continue to heed the concerns raised by all the emergency personnel. We don't want another example of what happened a couple of years ago when a lady decided to drive what she believed to be a puddle and ended up drowning. Years back, an individual went out on the street on Midville Avenue and rain rushed down the street and a flash flood and dragged the lady under the bus. So we want to make sure that you listen to what we say, from the mayor all the way up to the President of the United States. This is serious, so folks, please continue to listen and monitor all of the news events and make sure you stay off the streets. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Thank you. Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, with the path of Hurricane Sandy, we were forced to close SEPTA service today. Early Tuesday morning, after the storm has passed, SEPTA crews will inspect and assess the conditions of our facilities, equipment, and infrastructure in order to ascertain whether we can safely operate service. This process can take up to 8 hours. There will be no SEPTA service Tuesday morning. Let me repeat that. There will be no SEPTA service Tuesday morning. Based on Amtrak's notification that their Northeast Corridor service will be disrupted at least till Wednesday, the following regional rail lines will be suspended until further notification from Amtrak: the Paoli-Thorndale line, the Airport line, the Chestnut Hill West line, the Wilmington-Newark line, the Kinwood line, and the Trenton line. It is anticipated the full service will resume on the Broad Street line and the Market-Frankfurt lines first, followed by bus and city trolley service with possible detours and cutbacks. Other modes of service: regional rail, Norristown High-Speed line, the Route 100, 101, and 102 trolley lines, which operate in areas that are prone to flooding and track obstructions, will be slower to return to service. We encourage everyone to monitor the service information posted on SEPTA website, www.septa.org, and look at the system status, the alert box, and also the link to Ready Notified PA. We will not operate service until we can assure that we can do so safely. Again, there will be no SEPTA service Tuesday morning. Any questions, you can also contact the SEPTA customer service at 215-580-7800. Thank you. You know, it all depends on the damage. This is a moving target. You have high winds at least till noon on Tuesday. You have a potential of track beds being washed out. You have trees down, fell in the overhead, flooding. It's hard to say at this point till we make the assessment.
No projection at all?
No projection at all.
Ryan? Airport.
Yeah, I'd like to just give you an airport update as well. As you know, there were no flights today out of PHL. U.S. Airways, our primary carrier at the airport, has announced it will not have service tomorrow. Again, it will not have service tomorrow. Most of the big cities on the East Coast, from Washington to Boston, will also have no U.S. air service. And as the storm passes and airplanes are brought back, they will try to get up and running again normally on Wednesday. But if you're holding tickets, please call your airline. We're expecting a backlog to try to clear the system out. Thank you.
Commissioners Ramsey and Ayers. Brenner, we'll come back to you. Let me try to get through the folks here. We'll have a full Q&A.
Thank you very much. The only thing I have is an update right now. The biggest issue that we have is deals with the trees that have gone down, blocking off streets, and we also have some down power lines in various parts of the city. We do have additional personnel working now on day work, but also 4 to 12 and overnight, anticipating as the storm gets worse, there'll be need to shut down more streets perhaps. So we'll have adequate personnel available for that.
We're asking all of our citizens to continue to do the right thing and listen to all of this information, follow the information. You're in your homes, stay safe in your homes. Everyone knows what to do as far as making sure that you monitor children, monitor your pets, all of those types of things. If you have to move, the shelters are set up. You need to have moved, or you need to move now immediately. Again, thank you very much for the cooperation and for listening to the good orderly direction.
Before we take questions, Commissioner Tolson reminds me that I should have made mention with regard to sanitation services, as we announced yesterday, for the Monday trash service. We asked folks to hold their trash, debris, and recycling until next Monday. We're going to ask the same for the Tuesday collections. Hold the trash until next Tuesday. We'll evaluate again tomorrow what level of service we may be able to provide during the course of the rest of this week. Monday trash service pickup, hold until next Monday, the 5th. Tuesday trash service, hold that wherever you can hold it until Tuesday, the 6th. With that...
what would you like to see private businesses do in the city? Obviously, tomorrow morning might not be the best time to have, possibly tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming back into Center City. What's your message to private businesses?
Well, first and foremost, I don't know how hundreds of thousands of people are going to get back into the city because, as Joe Casey mentioned, there will be no SEPTA service. The storm will still be going on. And what we've encouraged our business community, certainly yesterday, as I talked to the leadership of at least the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to lead by example. So what have we announced here? City government is closed. City council is not in operation. The courts, the DA, the sheriff, not open. Public school, Catholic schools, charter schools weren't open today. We're certainly encouraging them not to open tomorrow. SEPTA, no service in the morning. I think it's fairly obvious that to the extent that folks are not out, not just about work, just not out, the storm is coming. It will be here tonight, overnight, and the morning is pretty much, I think, going to be a mess based on current estimates. That's not the kind of weather, to be honest with you, that people should be out in. So the business leaders, business owners, obviously will ultimately make their own decision. But I think when you look at the totality of the situation, this is not a time for folks to be out pretty much doing anything, let alone trying to go to work.
I had a question for Joe. Joe, what percentage of the vehicles in all 5 modes are able to shelter as opposed to leaving, sitting out exposed to the elements?
I don't know if I have that number. I mean, they're all safeguarded from the flooding areas. The trains, whether they're outside or not, that's another story. But we anticipate minimum damage from the flooding on our vehicles.
What about in terms of winds? It's hard to say.
It's hard to say at this point.
So your main concern is not the vehicles so much as the tracks?
The tracks, the catenary system, flooding, and on both the Broad Street and the Market Frankfurt lines, streets. You know, streets aren't passable. There's a whole litany of items that we have to make sure, and we don't want to put service out there that puts our customers or our employees at risk.
Mayor, are you satisfied that 300 of, 10,000 some people in low-lying areas have gone to shelter? Had you expected that number to be higher given your request on Friday?
That's the folks who are with us. Obviously, if people are seeking shelter with friends and family, in many instances, I mean, we're not going to know that. I mean, nobody calls us up and says, hey, I'm staying with my cousin. The fact that the number has doubled in the last few hours is further indication that people are taking this very seriously. Again, as I think I may have mentioned this earlier today, part of our challenge here is, one, striking the very serious balance between nonchalant and hysterical. The reality is in between, and we're not trying to scare people, but we do have to give them information that they can make the proper decision on. Second, again, if you look outside, you might say, well, you know, maybe it's not as bad as they say. We're asking folks to, we have every possible weather service almost in the world taking a look at this. And as Council President Clark said, the President of the United States has taken it seriously, so you should take it seriously. It's coming. Just because you can't see it right now, if you look at some of the satellite photos, the fact that Philadelphia is dead on in the path and that this thing is not only slow moving but may hover over us for a little while is reason enough to take this very, very seriously. So I think people are taking it seriously. I expect more will come to the shelters. We don't have a threshold number of what, qualifies as, that's a lot, that's a little bit. If folks are somewhere else in a friend, relative, neighbor's home, I'm good with that. But we have capacity. Our job is to make sure that people know that the opportunity is there and to take advantage of it. We'll continue to monitor, though, those low-lying or flood-prone areas, and if we're seeing things that give us concern, we'll have to accelerate our efforts.
I was wondering if we could get an update from DGW. Craig, do you have any?
We'll get him. I'm sorry, what was your question?
I'm sorry, how many roads are already closed off?
Commissioner Ramsey, you got any numbers on that?
Just got another one down.
Mostly trees. It's mostly trees. There's some flooding, but right now it's mostly trees that are taking wires down as well. The number's very fluid because, I literally standing here got 2 more pages with trees down at different points, different parts of the city. So that's going to be a number that's going to change on a regular basis.
Do you have some fraud? Do you have
I'll have to get back to you on the exact number. I don't know.
He can say it. I'm sorry, Rhonda, what was the question? Yeah. Craig?
Yeah, the airport itself is in fact open. The airlines are not flying, so let me make that distinction. U.S. Airways today made a decision that for tomorrow in their 4 East Coast cities, Washington, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, they will be canceling all of their flights. We expect to be able to have better information tomorrow as to when and if all of those flights will resume on Wednesday. We expect they will, but until we know what the weather is, we can't make that call. But U.S. Air will not be flying out of Philadelphia tomorrow.
Do you expect the other carriers to follow suit with that decision?
I certainly expect they will make the same decision. Yes. But people should definitely check with their airlines to make sure.
Craig, I've got a question.
Have you had any problems so far, and what are you fearing?
No problems so far. We've taken a lot of preemptive steps.
especially in the low-lying areas. Just to give you an example.
All right, you've been listening to Mayor Nutter and various city officials talking about tomorrow in the city. Just to recap, the city's closed. All Philadelphia public schools will be closed for a second day. SEPTA, no service tomorrow morning. Now we bring you to the Jersey Shore and a news conference underway in Cape May, where officials are updating the media about the status of the situation there. Let's listen.
Again, we estimate that probably about 60% of the barrier islands have been evacuated. We've started getting calls from people who did not leave the barrier islands. I'm going to emphasize again, while this little bit of time is left, if there's any way possible you can leave those barrier islands, leave. You're in danger. I can only tell you that. You have to leave. We had to this afternoon, we had to send the Wildwood Crest police in to get a woman out of Wildwood Crest because she did not heed our advice early on. And I know that when the electricity goes off, and it's going to, as Marty Palugi said, right now we have 7,600 people within the county without electricity. When that electricity goes off and the conditions get much worse for them in their home, our shelters are going to fill up rapidly. Last night I visited the shelters throughout the county, and I can tell you that the job they're doing is absolutely outstanding, and I mean that. Under the conditions, they have responded, and all the municipalities in the town. I was with the mayor last night at the shelter here in Middle Township. They asked for some blankets and things like that. The sheriff stepped up, and we had blankets there within 20 minutes. So this is a complete team effort from Washington right down to the state, to the county, to the municipalities, because it is an extremely dangerous situation. I want to emphasize that. If anybody can leave those barrier islands, I urge you now to leave those barrier islands, because as the conditions get worse, you're going to try and seek shelter, and the first responders are not going to be able to come in and help you. And we can't endanger our first responders. As Marty said, we had the National Guard responding to Sea Isle, and suddenly they were in a terrible accident, and a number of people were injured. So, look, we're at the last instant here. This is the last hour. You're not going to see any more warnings here. You don't have any time left. This storm now is predicted to hit Cape May County anywhere from about 6 to 10 o'clock this evening. So we're down to the very, very last hour. So please, if you're still on the barrier islands and you can evacuate, I urge you to evacuate those barrier islands. And now I'd like to introduce Prosecutor Taylor, who's going to give you an update on the procedures and the effort that our law enforcement people in the county of Cape May have made. Prosecutor?
Thank you, Jerry. From a law enforcement perspective, we've been in touch with all the chiefs of police, all the police departments in the county. They're dealing with the normal kinds of things that you would expect to be happening with the approach of a hurricane. I can only emphasize what Jerry had just told you. If you're on a barrier island now, you have an opportunity to get off now, get off. When the chief and I were riding around taking a survey of what was going on the barrier island, you'd be surprised the number of people that are out there driving around. And I want to warn them that they should not be out there driving around. They're interfering with public safety and people trying to get to and from wherever they have to be. So if you're in the general public and you're out riding around, you shouldn't be doing that. The police departments on the barrier islands are just doing an outstanding job. As the freeholder already said, we've had people that had to go out and be rescued because they didn't heed the earlier warning. So we're going to keep monitoring what goes on the barrier islands. We're going to assist them in any way we can, but just to emphasize again, don't be out riding around. Do not try and come down and see what happened to your property before you get the all clear warning. We're not going to let you on the barrier island. You have to stay off. So don't drive down the boulevards because you're going to be turned around. And I was here in March of '62. I was a lot younger then, and it was bad then, and I think it's going to be worse tonight when we get the high tide with the surge. So for you old folks that say I'm going to Ride it out. This is not a good one to be riding out. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Pat Gorman, New Jersey State Police, OEM for the Southern Region.
Good afternoon. I'm not going to add too much more other than just make a safe assumption, everyone, that all the roadways are closed. We keep getting continuous phone calls about the roadways. Just assume they're closed. They're all flooded. You can't get on the barrier islands. Other than that, just use your head. We're here to help, but we're not coming out to endanger ourselves. All right? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to also reiterate that there are 7,800 customers right now in the area that are out of electric, and the high winds have not settled tonight. So it's a very dangerous situation to be out riding around in standing water with live electrical wires on the ground. You're putting yourself in danger. You're putting the first responders in danger. And we're asking everyone, if you did not shelter on a barrier island and you're on a mainland community, please do not go out and travel around tonight. Most of the towns will be putting in curfews, and people will be stopped. Like I said, it's a large storm of epic proportions that we've never seen here in Cape May County before. We saw that by the tide cycle this morning, and the tide will be worse this afternoon. There were some other minor potential fire events, one in Stone Harbor where a condominium association's electrical room completely flooded and started the fire. The Stone Harbor Fire Department got there in time through standing water, which is a little dangerous. So please, if you're on a barrier island and you haven't evacuated, you still have time to get out. You can call your local Office of Emergency Management to make arrangements, and we're begging you, please leave the islands tonight. And with that, the Freeholder Director, myself, Sergeant Gorman, would like to answer any questions.
How many people did you say were without electricity?
7,688 right now. And that was as of about an hour ago. And as you can see outside, the rain has probably doubled in intensity that it was earlier, and the wind is going to be 3 times higher tonight. So there will be extensive power outages.
You've been listening to an emergency update from Cape May County officials as they lay out the current situation as well as the plan for the next very crucial several hours as the storm intensifies and Hurricane Sandy, the brunt of the storm, really does pummel our viewing area.
We'll take a quick break. Our coverage continues here on Channel 6 in just a few moments. Stay with us.